G'day, and welcome to this professional development on engaging learners and teaching strategies. My name is Ruth Buckley. I'm a pre-vet service teacher at Central Queensland University, and this year, recently I've been studying engaging learners, classroom management, and neuroscience. Within the subject, we have been talking about the social brain, neuroplasticity, student wellness, managing stress, and optimal learning environments. I have a written resource which accompanies this video, and that resource will talk more about the mechanisms of these 5 topics. This video will then expand on that and talk about more teaching strategies that you can now take into the classroom today, straight after learning this. So in this video, we'll be talking about the role of a teacher, creating a lifelong learner, growth mindset, brain-based learning and strategies, creating a safe environment and supportive environment, the zone of proximal development, differentiated strategies, synapse, and managing stress. Now, first of all, I want you to reflect. We've all been students and had different teachers. But what was your experience with teachers? What qualities did a negative or positive teacher have? Were they firm or carefree? Were they boring or exciting? Were they calm or aggressive? Were they respectful or condescending? Or did they use rote teaching, or did they differentiate their teaching? How do you learn best? How do your friends or colleagues learn? I don't know if you've had this conversation yet, but definitely ask your mates, how do they learn? Because it's probably going to be different to you. And then, what is your teaching style? Needed. So next, I want to challenge you. All right. After this video, I want you to think about what teachers engage in these strategies that we're going to talk about. What ones do you do? Which ones could you do? And what ones don't you do, or are you working towards? And then next of all, be brave. Some people get very nervous with introducing different teaching strategies which they aren't familiar with or they don't learn with. But be brave, because people are different and they will probably really appreciate it. All right, so first of all, a role of a teacher. I kind of go into this more in the written resource. So I'm just going to put up there for ASL and my PowerPoint declaration. But as a role of a teacher, our first and foremost role is to teach content, curriculum to an audience, student, classroom. ASL describes this as a teacher. As a teacher, it's your role to grow and develop the minds in your classroom. So we want to be creating a student with a growth mindset, someone who has a desire for lifelong learning, a desire to learn and to challenge and to have that resilience. So to be able to create that student with the growth mindset, we need to be looking at, first of all, a safe and supportive environment. We need to be looking at differentiated learning so that they can learn best, and brain-based learning. So scientifically proven, researched strategies to help involve the mind and the body in the classroom so that it can learn best. So first of all, we want to be looking at creating a safe environment. A safe environment does not just mean a lack of physical harm or harsh words. An unsafe environment is anything that activates the amygdala. So when the amygdala is activated, they shut off their higher order thinking. So we really need to consider different strategies where they can feel safe and have those needs met. So students have 3 basic needs. They have the need for attachment and a need for control and to be in control, and also a need for motivation, to decrease pain and to increase pleasure. The students need to feel respected, accepted, and free to question. We can do this as teachers by having a calm voice and presence in the classroom. Aggression in the classroom, such as yelling, bickering, even if it's not directed at the other students, can cause the amygdala to activate and say it's in a threatening situation, and therefore shut off any higher order thinking. So even if you're getting up another student, if you're being yelling or being that little bit more aggressive, then other students' amygdala might be activated and stop them from being able to learn properly. We then also need to create a supportive environment. We need to create clear expectations within classroom boundaries, lesson objectives and success criteria, and within assessment. Students do well when they know what's expected of them and they know what's going to happen within the lesson. We cannot assume that the students will know what we're going to talk about or what's going to happen. I've got a great little quote for you that really helps to exemplify that. We need to avoid boredom in the classroom. So when students are bored, they're going to switch off, because we have this brain mechanism where we want to conserve energy. And if something is repetitive and it's not helping them, their brains be like, okay, we need to conserve energy. That's not important. So we need to keep things interesting. So another thing that we need to consider is the zone of proximal development. I'm sure as teachers you would already know this, but in the center we have things what learners can do by themselves, and on the outside we have what learners cannot do. So if we work with the zone of proximal development, which is working with someone who is either more knowledgeable or of the same level as to help challenge them, students will actually be able to learn so much more and to do so much more than what they can currently do. So differentiated learning. In your classroom, you're going to have a range of abilities. So apparently 10% of students in a year level is 6 years above the bottom 10%. So in a year 8 class, you're going to have students' capacity range at a year 5 to a year 11, which is massive. And that's not even going into considering students with different physical, mental, and behavioural challenges. All of those will have different ways of learning and different things that we need to be aware of, and we may not even be aware of their impairment or their challenge. Some students would be just that little bit slightness where they can kind of get away with it, but like if they could just have those other abilities, other different teaching strategies, they will be able to go that little bit more further. So it's always good to differentiate your learning, incorporate different teaching strategies, even if you didn't realize that student needs it, just so that everyone can then work together. So here's some teaching strategies that I got from a teacher when I was on prac, which is a really, really great list. So go through that, see which ones you're already doing, see which ones you could probably see a student might need help with, or something else that you could just help incorporate into the room. It's a really great list, so screenshot it, whatever you need to do. And introduce synapse. I absolutely love this idea by Judy Willis. So a synapse is a shift in a lesson in which you have students engage with the materials or with each other in a way that uses a different brain network. So it's not a physical nap. It's a break from activated brain regions to prevent fatigue. So try to do this every 20 minutes at most, because at that 20-minute sort of mark, people then start to get bored and start to disconnect. So try to just change your teaching so then they can activate different learning areas. And so this could be done by drawing or sketching, reading aloud, physical movement, identify similarities and differences. So if you talk about something, be like, okay, now let's compare that. So that just doing that is that change of brain network. This is a great little quote to help emphasize the differentiated teaching. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Managing stress is really important in engaging your learners. If your students are stressed, then they're not going to be learning as well. So introduce calming environments, first of all, in your classroom. So, using blue instead of red, because red is an alert, aggressive color, whereas blue is calming, and that will, calm students. Use natural lighting and fresh air and calming music if they're getting a bit rowdy, decluttering. And then use some calming techniques and have these up on a wall so that students can then remind themselves when they're starting to get stressed. They're like, oh yeah, that's right, let's go through these calming techniques. Bring me back down. Activate our parasympathetic nervous system. I go into that in the written resource, so have a look at that. So that way, students can then be open up to new learning. So here's a couple of posters to get you started, just to have up in the room so how it reminds students, and go through this with your students and explain why we should use calming techniques and the parasympathetic nervous system and all that, so they know what to look out for. So all of this goes into brain-based learning. So brain-based learning is all about increasing learning potential, memory and retention, productivity and efficiency, creates a growth mindset, and the brain works better if your whole body is being involved and looked after. So making sure you're getting your sleep, your good healthy foods, and your physical exercise. And it's all about student well-being and focus, because when the student is not in a survival mode, when their basic needs are met, so you're looking at the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's Maslow's whatever hierarchy of needs. I absolutely love that. Then, you know, make sure that their survival, their basic needs are being met, so then they can work towards having a higher understanding. So again, I present you with your challenge. You know, what teachers engage in these strategies? Which ones do you do? Which ones could you add? Which ones don't you do? And be brave and actually give a whole bunch of these a try. All right, you guys have a good day. I hope you got something really productive out of this, and, you know, keep doing well with your students.